College hoops, coast to coast, with the one and only Kevin Sweeney, Sports Illustrated's finest. Kevin, what is up, my man?
Happy holidays, B. I'm back home in upstate New York, trying to enjoy the holiday. Last year, I came home for Christmas and immediately got COVID. So hopefully, a better Christmas this year. But hey, no complaints.
Absolutely. You don't feel like a New Yorker. Maybe upstate New York is different. What's the difference
It's
between a New
different.
Yorker?
It's definitely different.
What's the
Like
difference?
where people, it's not New York City people. Like I'm not a New York City guy.
No, you're not a New Yorker. You don't have an accent. You don't have any of that. What's up, Sweeney? What's up, man?
No accent. Yeah, I speak as normal as possible.
Yeah, that's a good move. That's a good move. All right. So we had a huge Saturday slate. I think the biggest one since 2009. We had, was it 7 top 25 matchups?
5 top 20 versus top 20s is the number I know, but there were a lot of great games. I mean, it was tremendous. You can't ask for anything better than what we got. Obviously, the slate tends to get very spread out this time of year, where you go a week without games that feel like they matter because it's finals, and they do this thing called school still. I know sometimes people forget about it, but they are in school. They're taking classes, finals, and whatnot. Does fill up the calendar, but these last 2 Saturdays have been great kind of college basketball Saturdays, if you will, football fading. Yeah. And this past Saturday is just unbelievable. To get CBS Sports Classic, obviously, with Ohio State, North Carolina, and Kentucky, UCLA. A great home series with Tennessee and Arizona. Kansas and Indiana is a tremendous game for college basketball, even though that wasn't all that close. Virginia, Houston, a top 5 game, really important game, given that Houston needed a big win to solidify its case for a number 1 seed. So it lived up to that. It was awesome, and I wish we got more Saturdays like this. I know I think it feels different in February, even if maybe there aren't as many ranked versus ranked numbers, right. But just because of the bubble implications and whatnot. But in terms of high quality basketball, you're not going to find a day much better than Saturday. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, what was it? What was the games? You talked about some of those matchups. Obviously, there was some big time ones. Tennessee, Arizona, we missed that one too. Did you say that?
Yes, yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, so many of them. What was some of the takeaways from the big top 20 matchups and just some of the activity on Saturday in general?
Well, I think Kansas is a lot better than I anticipated them being. They share the ball.
There's a feeling that they can repeat right now that wasn't the feeling going into the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing I was worried about with Kansas is this. You think about Bill Self teams, you think about their ability to play through a guy in the post, right? Whether it's a Azubuike or a David McCormick, right? Like so much of their offense, like those post pins, like getting guys easy looks at the rim. And they're playing a 6'7", 230-pounder at center, KJ Adams, who's a really good player, but more of like a switch big. And I was worried about that. And not only has it been fine defensively, and he did a great job against Trey Jackson-Davis, but it's working offensively because he's very mobile. They can use him in like dribble handoffs. He's a very good passer. So you combine, you have a really good passing center. You have a point guard who's as unselfish as anyone in the country in DeJuan Harris. You've got a wing in Kevin McCullough, who played point guard last year at Texas Tech and can really share the basketball. You just got a really unselfish group, and they get the ball to Jalen Wilson and Grady Dick in the right spots. They shoot the ball extremely well from 3. They're very complete. And Indiana, I'm not sure how good Indiana is. I think they're a contender in the Big Ten. I'm not sure they're a national contender. Certainly, they were weakened by the fact that Xavier Johnson went down injured, but I couldn't have been more impressed with how Kansas played in that game. And I just think they haven't gotten enough love for what they've accomplished. They have 1 loss. It was the 3rd game in 3 days against Tennessee, and they shot poorly. Tennessee's really good. I think that shouldn't be surprising. So I really like this Kansas group.
Yeah, let's touch on a couple more before we go to the rest of the slate. Gonzaga beating Alabama. Gonzaga kind of needed that win. Alabama, as hot as anybody in the country, just beat Memphis and beat Houston. Houston when they were number 1. So let's talk a little bit about Gonzaga, and then I think the other one we'll talk about some of these later within the Sweeney 7. But Arizona at number 9, just a little bit about Arizona because I think they're kind of flying below the radar, similar as what they did last year, and talk a little bit about those 2 teams.
Yeah, I thought with Gonzaga, I think we've known that their defense wasn't going to be what it was last year. Obviously, when you lose Chet Holmgren, that's inevitable, right? But But to overcome that, they were going to have to be absolutely elite offensively. And I think at times this year, they've shown flashes for 5 minutes, but I thought in this game they showed it for 40 minutes. And that's so critical. Nolan Hickman has gotten a lot of heat just because that point guard position at Gonzaga has been so good, and he has been up and down. And I thought he had one of his best games. Their guards were tremendous as a whole. Anton Watson had one of the best games offensively I've ever seen him play. And obviously Drew Timmy's Drew Timmy. Like they were really hard to guard. Like that was the first time all season I've seen this team and said, wow, they have a championship ceiling. And now maybe this game becomes kind of a tease, like a game we circle and say, well, can they ever find that flow again? Can they ever get to that point again? And honestly, last year, Alabama did that against Gonzaga, where Alabama beat Gonzaga in Seattle, and you were like, wow. Like, that's the team we've been wanting to see all year. And they'd keep hitting bumps in the road, and you keep saying, well, if they can only play the way that they did against Gonzaga. And I worry that's what we're going to do with Gonzaga, but they were tremendous. And then the Arizona game, I mean, outside of a little post-Maui hangover at Utah, who's a good team, Arizona's been awesome. Their defense is not amazing, but offensively, they're just so hard to guard because they have two bigs who run the floor extremely well, who are unselfish, who could score on the block. They understand their system really well. And I think one of the things, I know Matt McCall at the Philly 68 talked about this last week, and I thought it was tremendous to point out. Like, their bigs run the floor like crazy, and their point guard, Kirk Risa, loves those like hit-ahead passes that just put so much pressure on a defense getting back in transition. It's very reminiscent of what Lonzo Ball did at UCLA several years ago. And it just makes them really hard to guard. So I think they're a true national title contender.
Yeah, Tommy Lloyd doesn't get the credit almost for Gonzaga's run, although he got some credit. But to be able to go from where he was to now just immediately making Arizona into this contender year in and year out has been super impressive to see. All right, we'll go to the next number 2 of Sweeney's 7, which is North Carolina may have turned the corner. Huge win that was needed. Baycott played like the Baycott people expected. What did you see in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if this is the game that – I'm not sure if North Carolina's back, right? I'm not sure that they'll allow their national title. They very well could have lost this game to Ohio State and everyone would say they're a fraud again, right? But if they turn the corner, if they become the team we thought they'd be, I think you're going to want to circle this game as like a huge reason why, because yes, they have flaws, right? Their guards have been a little erratic. Yeah, they're not amazing defensively. They're not very deep. But the one thing that kept being said when I talked to Caleb Love and Armando Baycott and those guys at PK85 was we just don't really have our mojo. We don't have our connectivity yet that we had down the stretch last year. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure there's a better way to build it than to come back on a neutral court at Madison Square Garden from a big deficit, hit a buzzer beater to tie it and go to overtime, and then win it in overtime against a very good team like Ohio State. Like, that's the type of game that changes seasons. It changes your whole energy. And I just think, like, we know they have the ceiling. We've seen it before. Both their guards played really well on Saturday. That was one of the first times all year. And I just think if this team does get over the hump, I think we're going to remember this game as the thing that turned the tide for this North Carolina team.
Yeah, Baycott 28 points, 15 rebounds. Caleb Love 22, 7 assists, and then RJ Davis 21 and 8 rebounds. And then Pete Nance, former Northwestern Wildcat, 8 points, 10 rebounds, almost a double-double in 40 minutes.
Hit the buzzer beater.
Yeah, with the buzzer beater. Got to comment on him. So, yeah, I think people almost forget it took this team last year sometime, though. Like, it felt like they were underachieving last year. They didn't have as high of expectations, and you felt like they should have just been able to turn it on. But, yes, it's hard to have that hangover and maybe come in and do it the way that they wanted to. And Brady Manick was a huge part of that. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what they continue to do. I'm glad to see them starting to get kind of that adversity win that maybe can trigger them, like you said. All right, Marquette, they've been balling. We saw what they did against Baylor early on in the year. They've been pretty dominant. Shaka Smart's kind of got his VCU formula magic going a little bit again. The top 15 should be a top 15 team, which always means you can make a run. What do you like about this team?
They're really good. Really, really good. I was up there for the Baylor game. I was up there again on Friday for their win over Creighton. And like, they don't have dudes that get a ton of hype, but everyone is a star in their role. Like Oso Igudero, their center, has been tremendous. He's a really good passer. He's very skilled. He's very mobile. He can block shots and rebound. He's been just done everything for them. Tyler Kolek's a tremendous point guard. Cam Jones is a 6'4" guard who's been as good a finisher around the rim as anyone. There's so much talk about Arthur Kaluma at Creighton, but I thought the better kind of athletic combo forward in this game was Omax Prosper for Marquette. 6'8", 230, made shots, attacks the basket, shoots again 70% from two. They're very hard to guard offensively with the way they space you out. And defensively, they're obviously going to be very disruptive with their ability to get deflections and pressure the ball and wear you down with their full court pressure. So I love this Marquette group. I think they're criminally underrated at this point with the way that they played. The Baylor game, obviously, they've lost 3 games, all by 5 points or less.
Yep.
They lost by 5 at Purdue, one of the hardest places to play in the country. It's the number 1 team.
And the number 1 team.
They lost by 3 on a neutral court against Mississippi State, who's undefeated.
Yep.
And they lost to Marquette by 3 in overtime, or to Wisconsin, in overtime in a rivalry game that Wisconsin shot 44% from 3.
Yep.
Like they're this margin away from being top 10 in the country, and I think they're that good.
Yeah, and you got to see him firsthand. What did you take away from seeing him in close, in person, that maybe the people don't have an understanding of?
I think the thing that's kind of remarkable about watching them is I thought for a lot of that game, Creighton was getting what it wanted offensively, but Marquette just has a way of kind of sucking the life out of you for stretches of the game. And they're very complimentary in the sense that like they get a few stops, the energy builds, and they score off those stops, right? They're a team that their offense really feeds off of their defense. That's rare. And I just I looked up and like they're up 10 and I'm like, I'm not sure that Creighton's playing that badly right now. And that's just the way, but they got a couple of stops and they turn it into baskets, and it just swings momentum so quickly in their favor. And they're such a hard team to beat on their home court. They have a great fan base. The place is rocking every night.
Yep.
It's just, it's really hard to beat them in Milwaukee.
It feels like they have a different type of energy, and it also feels like it takes so much energy to exert to score against them. It feels like once you do, you're almost relieved, but then when you don't and they turn into points, you're almost like deflated. That's what it feels like from afar.
Yeah, 100% agree with you.
Going to another team, a little bit of region, a little different narrative. Louisville, they got to win.
Yeah,
it was a good one. And
it's news. Yeah.
It's
they
great.
didn't just get 1 win; they got 2.
Yes, this is true. They started with 1, and now they're at 2.
Yes, the Florida A&M win by a score of 61-55 was perhaps not the most impressive thing in the world, but beating Western Kentucky, scoring 94 points, that was impressive. That was a fun performance to watch. It was a nice for Kenny Payne to get the monkey off his back. Good for this group, right? Like they have their issues. They're very flawed. They're not very good, but like the amount of pressure and hate that these dudes have gotten, just like it's not these guys' fault they got recruited to Louisville, right?
Right.
And Kenny Payne can be doing more with them, and these players can be doing more with their abilities, but it's not their fault that they got recruited to Louisville. They don't deserve the hate they've gotten. It's not fair to them, and I'm happy for those guys to see the energy in that building when they won, to see the fans show up and support them still.
Yeah,
I think it was a special night, a special scene. Obviously, there's not going to be that many of them this year, but I think everyone's rooting for Kenny Payne to figure it out. I mean, it'd be a great story if an alum, place that means so much to him, can be the one that gets Louisville basketball back on track. But obviously, a slow start and 2 wins is a nice step in the right direction.
Yeah, it's just a relief to get the monkey off your back. Like you said, you don't want to keep having that counter of winless games. I saw a clip where the kind of criticism gets so much that he was even being positive with a player on the bench and encouraging him and kind of smiling and laughing with him as he's trying to get him back going. And people are like, you haven't won a game. Why couldn't you be smiling and laughing? It's like, yeah. So courage to Kenny Payne and their staff for just figuring out how to get this team not to shut it down and keep fighting and get a good win like against Western Kentucky, because Western Kentucky is a good program and a program that is, picked to win year in and year out in their conference. So we'll take it, and hopefully they can keep building it. Speaking of wins, big time win for Colorado State yesterday on a Sunday. And the best part about it, probably for Rams fans, is that Isaiah Stevens is fully back. 22 points, I believe. They won by 2. He was the best player on the floor and one of the best point guards, if not the best point guard in the country coming into the year. Had he not had maybe gotten injured, people will be talking about him even more. But awesome to see, and credit to Nico Medvedev and his staff for what they've done in his absence. And now that he's back, trending a little bit in a Mountain West that's been on fire. Talk about this game.
Yeah, up to 8-4. Isaiah Stevens wins Mountain West Player of the Week, and well-deserved on that front. I just think this was so important for their team because, they brought Isaiah back, and I think they felt really good about what they had accomplished before Isaiah came back. I mean, they avoided the bad losses. They beat, South Carolina on intracourt by 30. You said, okay, like we've done something, and they bring Isaiah back. They beat Loyola Marymount. They look good doing it. Like, okay, things are trending up, and all of a sudden you then lose to Northern Colorado, give up 88 points, lose to Colorado in a rivalry game, give up 93 points, then play a non-Division I in Peru State and give up 72 points and over a point per possession. You're like, uh-oh, like what happened? Right. And all of a sudden it just doesn't feel like things are trending right. And so to go on the road against the St. Mary's team that is excellent, right? Top 25 in all the metrics, and win that game without 2 key pieces in Jalen Lake, who's their best perimeter defender, and Tavy Jackson, who's one of their best, their top freshmen on their team. I mean, just huge. I mean, a huge momentum changing, season changing win. And to do it, and hold them to 60 points. I mean, that's huge as well. Like that's a huge defensive performance for them. So again, where things stand, like at large wise, I don't know, but I think you never want to count out Nico Medved in a Mountain West. That there's been a lot of love for New Mexico, a lot of love for San Diego State, a lot of love for Utah State, and obviously all that's well deserved, UNLV as well. But man, oh man, like great win for Colorado State, and a reminder that this team will be a factor in this conference title race.
Yeah, the good part about where the Mountain West stands, I mean, even last year, obviously we saw with 4 teams getting in. This year, you got a lot of hot teams. There's just a lot of opportunities for big-time wins, So credit to them for being able to get this one before Mountain West play. You talked about North Carolina kind of being able to look back at that game that may have turned the corner. This may be the one for Colorado State. So credit to this program and fighting through some adversity to get there. BYU's had their share of adversity too. They come out with a big-time week with wins over Creighton and Utah. Utah, who was playing, I mean, they were one of the teams we talked about on here as a team that, obviously started Pac-12 2-0 and got off to a hot start, wins against Arizona, et cetera. So, yeah, let's talk about BYU fighting back in the mix.
Yeah, isn't it very college basketball that BYU opens December with losses to South Dakota and to Utah Valley, and then follows that up with wins over Creighton and Utah? I mean, it's very, very college basketball. They're still, again, they're figuring out who they are identity wise. I think one of the biggest things that's been huge for them in turning this around has been Rudy Williams, obviously the well-traveled JUCO transfer who was at Kansas State and Coastal Carolina. He had 26 against both Creighton and Utah, and his scoring ability, I think, really changes the ceiling for this group, and they've needed that because they do have some good defensive pieces. They've got Traore up front who's solid. Gideon George obviously is a guy with a great story and a really good kind of wing 3-and-D type. Jackson Robinson, a top recruit who has been kind of inconsistent, but again, they got 11 from him against Creighton and 10 against Utah. Like, I think some of these transfers, like Robinson, like Williams, are starting to find their rhythm in this offense for Mark Pope, who we know is a great offensive mind. And obviously we're seeing the results of that. So they have a couple of more navigable games here coming up this week to wrap up non-conference play, and then into a WCC that's really interesting with St. Mary's. She's been great. Obviously Gonzaga, San Francisco is 9-3 and just beat UNLV to end their undefeated season. Portland, we know what they were able to accomplish at the PK85 with the win over Villanova and pushing teams like Michigan State and North Carolina to the wire. Santa Clara is off to an 11-3 start. They've been better than I think people would have expected without Jalen Williams, excuse me.
Yeah.
Even Loyola Marymount's 9-4, and Pepperdine has an NBA player, Max Lewis. So, I mean, it's fun to watch. Like, this league is very deep, very competitive. 1 through 8, 9, 1 through 10, even potentially. We'll see how Pacific winds up, but just wanted to shout out BYU because they had the huge kind of season-changing type of week. Again, when you talk about the momentum that can swing from beating obviously Creighton, but also your bitter rival in Utah.
Yeah, you gotta love college basketball, right? It's like the best TV drama you could ever find. One week BYU is all the way out of the picture, and then the next week they're back in it. A team that people are used to from March a couple seasons ago, and their best player making that run, and they're making that Sweet 16 run. Here is Oral Roberts on a 6-game winning streak, and they are back balling. They got a player named Max who's still good, still gets buckets. He's from Dallas, and they have a good team. Again, Coach Mills is doing his thing. Talk about Oral Roberts.
I mean, you could make a case this Oral Roberts team is right now looks better than the team that went to the 16, and looks better than last year's team that won 20 games. And the reason why is they're a little bit better defensively because they added the 7'5" kid Connor Vanover from Arkansas. He's very unique player, obviously, and freak physically, but he blocks shots. That's something you really haven't had. He's rebounded, I think, a lot better than he has in his career. I think moving down a level has helped him there, and he can stretch the floor. He really fits their offense because you can pick and pop with him at 7'5", which I mean, most NBA teams don't have. I mean, most NBA players who are 7'5" can't pick a pop. I mean, he's very, very unique. So they shoot the ball, obviously, at an extremely high level. They take care of the ball at an extremely high level. They're never going to be a monster defensively. That's just the nature of the beast with Paul Mills' teams. But, man, oh, man, are they going to space it out? And Max Abmas is, like you said, one of the best guards in the country.
No doubt.
Had 23 in a nice win over Missouri State this past week, 26 when they beat Liberty, another powerhouse mid-major, top 100 type team.
Yeah.
So just got a shout out to ORU, who's continuing to put things in the right direction.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Mills and his staff. And Max, keep doing your thing, man. We all love to see it. So cool to see a young man who stayed loyal to his program when he could have left right when the portal was hot. Then could have left again after last year. He stayed there. Got to give credit. You love to see these type of stories, and hopefully they can keep building that. Well, let's go straight to the high major team of the week. We won't even go HBCU or mid-major first. We're going straight to the top. It was a heavy-hitting week. What do you think is the team that deserves this the most? There's probably several that do, but one that more than others.
Yeah, I think it's UCLA because they got not one, but two really good wins. They blew out Maryland on Maryland's home court, and then they went to Madison Square Garden, 3,000 miles from home, and beat a very, very good Kentucky team. They were great defensively. They were in control really for all 40 minutes of both games. Jaquez, Jalen Clark, and Tiger Campbell is as good of a trio as you'll find in college basketball. And if Amari Bailey, their freshman guard, continues to come along and has the type of year I think that they know he has the talent for, this team is a legit national title hopeful.
Yeah, just Final Four 2 years ago. Last year had some high expectations, didn't quite get back, but this could be the team that takes it there and even further. High major player of the week, a lot of dudes balling. Who you think is most deserving here?
Yeah, I went with Azuolas Tubelis from Arizona. As good a win as you'll find this week to go and beat a very good Tennessee team. He had 19 points and 9 rebounds and did it efficiently. Before that, he had a big game against Steve Lutz and A&M Corpus Christi, which is not an easy team to play against, certainly. Right. We know that.
NCAA tournament team from a year ago.
Certainly. He's been in double figures every single game this season. He's, again, incredibly efficient, rebounds the ball at an extremely high clip, makes his free throws. He's a complete player at the power forward spot.
Yeah, we'll keep it with players. We'll just go mid-major now. Mid-major player of the week. What do you feel good about there?
How about Chattanooga? Their star center, Jake Stevens, who followed Coach Dan Earl from VMI. I was trying to figure out a comparison for him.
Okay.
I texted some people and talked to someone, a guy who's an NBA scout who was at one of their games last year at VMI, and he said kind of like mid-major Luka Garza.
Okay.
Not overly mobile, not overly quick, but just gigantic. And this week he had 2 games, played Middle Tennessee, great team in the Conference USA. He goes for 24 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks. Turns it around against Belmont. All right, this tough loss, overtime game against Missouri Valley opponent. They lose in OT. But he had a solid 32 points, 20 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 blocks, and 3 steals.
It's a slight day's work.
It's silly. It's silly how good Jake Stevens has been. So shout out to him. He's been tremendous and helped make this Chattanooga team, I think, a legitimate contender to win the SoCon in year 1 under Coach Earl.
Yeah, and the thing that's unique about that is, he was at VMI. You see a lot of guys transfer up that don't have the same kind of success, but because he transferred up in the same system, same coach, he's able to hit the ground running even faster.
And he could have went anywhere in the country.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Everyone wanted him, and the fact that he didn't take that as an excuse to leave the people that have been invested in his success for the last 4 years, it's a great story, and it's been really fun to watch.
Yeah, those need to be celebrated more. Similar to we talked about Max, you take a team to the Sweet 16, could have went anywhere in the country and could be as productive as he is at Oral Roberts at most places in the country. He's that good, but credit to both those guys for sticking around and paying dividends. I think we already did that. Mid-major team of the week. We have not done that. Mid-major team of the week. Some
New
good
Mexico.
choices, some good options, but New Mexico definitely well deserving of this one.
Yeah, I mean, a very good neutral court win against San Francisco. We mentioned they just beat UNLV. They're very, very good, very, very good. And then beat Iona, very good mid-major again. I think again what stood out to me was they took a punch in the second half from Iona and hung in there and stayed in it and found a way to hold on and win. Iona's teams under Rick Pitino obviously do a tremendous job of kind of wearing you down, and they didn't fold. That was really impressive. I think the other thing that really stood out with New Mexico in this win was, I mean, the pit's back, right? And this is one of the best atmospheres, and you coached in it. There are very few places in college basketball that are more special when it's locked in than the pit.
Yep.
And to have almost 15,000 people there, and it was allowed. It was not a wine and cheese 15,000 people.
It's never, ladies and gentlemen, it's never a wine and cheese crowd at that place. It is I don't want to use any, it's a big time environment. If you're a college basketball player, coach, even as an opponent, we went to a double overtime game there for third place in the Mountain West when I was at Fresno State. And I mean, those fans are just letting you have it. And that's what you want. You want to be able to play in those type of arenas and those kind of environments. And it's good to see the pit back.
Yeah, the pit's back. New Mexico's back. Shout out to Richard Pacino. He's doing a really good job with this group.
Yes, he has. All right, player of the week. We're going South Carolina State. What do you think?
Yeah, I just think Rakeem Gary was tremendous this week. And he's a guy that is incredibly talented, again, on a team that's rebuilding really around him, because they had several departures after the coaching change last offseason. But they beat Samford, a top 150 Samford team that a lot of people think will contend in the SoCon. They're very, very talented. And Rakeem Gary was a huge reason why. He had 20 points, did so efficiently, and was the best player on the floor against a team from a better conference that has a chance to win its league. So well-deserved Player of the Week award to Mr. Gary.
Love it. Love it. And then lastly, but not least, team of the week. This was a cool one yesterday, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, this was a cool one.
Howard became the first HBCU to ever beat Harvard, which is pretty unique. And Harvard's a very good basketball team. Like, Harvard has beaten some very good mid-majors, Loyola Chicago, Siena, Northeastern. They played UMass to 3 points. Like, that's a good Harvard team that will contend for its conference championship. And Howard kind of beat them wire to wire. They have a freshman wing, Shai Odom, who was tremendous this week. He had 14 against FIU, another good win again against a higher level conference in the Conference USA. They got that on their home court, which is really, really cool. And then to turn around and beat Harvard, really impressive. So he had 18 in that win. He was, again, the best player on the floor, deserves a lot of credit. And I think Kenny Blakeney continues to kind of mold this program in his image. And they're 6-8, have a real opportunity with 2 home games to wrap up the non-con here to be 500 going into conference play.
Yep, outstanding win. He has absolutely done a great job, and excited to see what they keep building to do and doing the conference play. Closing the show, I don't think we have any news. Closing the show, the holidays are here. We got another great slate ahead. Some conference games are going down. No mistletoe that way, is there, by chance?
No, sir. Well, just the Diamond Head Classic. Just the Diamond Head Classic.
Okay, just making sure. Are you going to Hawaii?
No, I wish.
Not this time.
I need the bosses to start paying for that. That'd be nice.
That would be nice. All right, one holiday tradition at the Sweeney household. You are at home. You have a twin brother. Do you guys have like a twin thing you do?
No. We actually have. There's like a little Christmas Eve party that we always throw with a bunch of our like friends and family. It's a nice time. So we part of that.
Yeah, I will be in the great state of Colorado. We won't be going to Texas. We went for Thanksgiving, but it'll be fun. My wife likes to do now non-Christmas meals for Christmas. So basically, like whatever you want. So I think this year it's carne asada, if you will.
Where's my invite? This is crazy.
Next
time I'm in Colorado, I better get something.
You have been at the household. I don't think we got a chance to make you a meal, but next time you come through, we got it.
I need it.
All right. Until then, enjoy. Happy holidays, everyone. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you soon.